Holy shit, people! It's been a little while, hasn't it? I know you guys have missed me. I know it. I'm sorry. This last month has been crazy. There's been a lot going on, and just life. I did have some guests set up, and they didn't come through. And honestly, if someone doesn't decide to show up, I'm just like, fuck it. I'll take the day off. I could use a life, especially with the day job and everything happening. So yeah, sorry about that. But we have a fucking awesome guest tonight who has done so much stuff in the industry, especially over the last couple of years. I've got to see him literally go from who the fuck is this guy to holy shit, look at what he's doing. So that's pretty badass. Let's go to Facebook real quick, make sure that all of this can be seen because, of course, we want that. Public. Yay. Now, let's go. If you guys are on here, like, comment, do all that stuff so we know what's going on. Um, I'm outside. I would be inside, but Wendy is live with the comic burritos. Maybe that's why I'm having a hard time with everybody. With I don't have quite as many people as we normally would starting out, but that's okay, everybody. I don't mind. Let me check Facebook one more time. Make sure that it is. Oh no, I don't want to edit the post. Hello. See, I need someone who is way awesome at this stuff, like a Joel Rodriguez. Yeah. So if okay, cool. We got people coming in. If you're in there, like, comment, share. We're gonna have a great talk tonight and just have a terrific time. So you know what? Without much further ado, why don't we just make this happen? Start the show and have a great fucking time.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck because I care.
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Chuck?
I'm doing good. What's up, John? Good to see you, man. Guys, this is the man, Joel Rodriguez. You've got an amazing book that is coming out, that has come out today on Kickstarter.
Yep.
It's Nightfall, right?
Yeah, the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall issue number 2.
Yes. That's right.
This one has been a long time coming, but happy to be on Kickstarter. Happy to be here talking with you guys. I'm excited. I've been waiting for this.
You know what's funny? You and I, we have something in common. We've worked on a bunch of tons of projects together. You and I basically, LK and Gino, we're the only two guys who work on all of her stuff.
Yeah, it was funny. I think I was doing production for one of her books. It was one of her first things that she was doing separately. And she sent me the credits, and I'm like, Chuck, I know Chuck. And then literally everything after, it's Chuck. Hey. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I work with so many different people, and they'll be like, oh, our letterer is Joel. And I'm like, Joel who? And they'll say a different name, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then finally I'm like, LK is like, oh yeah, I sent it off to my letterer, Joel. And I'm like, Joel who? And she goes, Rodriguez. I was like, oh shit. Oh, it's actually him. That's awesome. Oh. What's up, Brian? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Chuck, I'm actually going to have to pause for 1 second because I realize my laptop is dying, so I need to do some tech stuff really quick.
You go do that, and I'll keep hanging out with everybody. Brian Manell's in the house. Dude, so good to see you out here. Brian, I got to go over Brian's script for his book, The Wretched, which is a really cool fantasy. I don't know, man. It reminds me of, like, trying to think of what it reminds me of. Like, Over the Garden Wall and, I don't know, like, The Dark Crystal. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that those are the two things that come to my mind. See, Brian's like, how to describe it indeed. Those are the two things that would come to my mind. Over the Garden Wall and the Dark Crystal. And by the way, if you haven't seen Over the Garden Wall, it is a Cartoon Network classic. You got to check it out. So good. Yeah, just amazing show. But yeah, man, we're here. Joel had to take care of some stuff because he's a busy dude. He's got a new kid. See, he says I love Over the Garden Wall, so that's cool. I heard Dark Crystal compared to, but I haven't seen that one. Oh, dude, Dark Crystal's a fucking Jim Henson classic. Like it's definitely a must see. Joel, back.
I'm back. Gotta love it when a cat unplugs your surge protector.
That's the best.
Oh yeah, great way to get started.
Right? Yeah, dude. No, I mean you and I have worked on a bunch of different projects together, but we don't work together. Like we were talking before the show. We haven't spoken in like a year, basically, because we're both so damn busy.
Well, it's crazy how this industry works because, we work on books together all the time, but at different ends of the spectrum. So you work directly with the writers, I work directly with the writers, but they become the intermediaries. So, we work together all the time. We just never talk to each other.
We just don't work with each other.
Right? Yeah, we work together, just not with each other.
Has there ever been a time where you got some changes and you're like, why the fuck didn't you take care of that on the script, man?
No.
Oh, good.
Your edits are fairly clean, so that makes me happy. I've worked with some people where it's not that way. I'm not going to name names.
No.
But I've worked with some people that there's a spectrum, let's say, and
that's fair.
You're definitely on the cleaner end of that.
Well, I have been told before that I'm probably on the spectrum, so I'm good with that.
Hey, you said it, man. I mean,
right, dude. Doors open. You might as well walk through. Fuck it, right? Well, no, but that's a really good point too, because like for me, I take letters really seriously. Like what you guys do, and especially, I mean, you're
I knew there was a reason we were good friends.
Right? Well, dude, what you guys have to do, and especially the fact that you guys come in at the end, much like editors a lot of the times, and they're like, oh man, you have like 2 days turnover, you have 24 hours, like literally, and this is tons of love, but one of my people got in touch with me, they're like, I'm so sorry, I got this thing, it's going to be, double time, I need it in 3 days, and you're like, you know what, you're always good to me, you don't do this a lot, so this time we're cool with it, you know what I mean?
Yep, I got you there.
So Paul's going to be on the show next month. He's got a Kickstarter happening too. By the way, people, if you guys have any Kickstarters going on, please show those off, throw them in the comments. And by the way, Joel, you have 2 Kickstarters up right now, right?
3.
3. Okay, what do you got going on?
3. Well, one you may be familiar with. I believe Wendy has one up. So I'm lettering Wendy's book. I always forget the first word. I know it's Marauders and
it's Viscarian Tales Marauders Masquerade.
Marauders Masquerade. There it is. Yes. Tell Wendy I'm sorry. But
she probably won't see the show, so we're good. I'll be like, Joel knew the book. He said he was glowing remarks about it.
Hey, and the pages that I have seen have been fantastic. So yes, glowing remarks. So yes, I am lettering Marauders Masquerade for Wendy. I also have the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall #2, which is my own book that I'm the writer and letterer for. And then for Merc Publishing, they have a swimsuit special that's finishing up Kickstarter right now.
Oh, yeah, I have heard about that one.
Yeah. So I letter pretty much, I do letter everything for Merc Publishing. So they have Miss Meow, Death Rage, Born of Blood, a couple of other spin-offs. And They're on issues 3 and 4 for all of those series, and I've done all of them. So,
Oh wow.
yeah. So I've got them, and there's actually an add-on to check out some of their stuff as part of the Dust County Kickstarter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they've been great to me, so I want to give them a little bit of an extra shout out. And then, of course, Wendy. I was really excited when Wendy reached out to me. I don't know if she told you, but I told her, man, I've been wanting to work together for so long, and now we can.
Well, and it was funny because so what happened with that was we had another letterer already set up, and he got really bad carpal tunnel.
Oh.
And he's like, dude, I wanted to do it, but I really can't. We're like, that's okay. He's like, I'm sorry. And we're like, that's all right, man. Like, you're not putting us in a bad position. We had enough time. Like, we're still getting pages in, so it wasn't a huge issue. And Wendy and I sat down and we're like, who should we go to? And of course, like, Jerome's name comes up instantly because he's attached to Travis and we talk about him all the time. And I was like, man, that dude is crazy busy. And honestly, I've worked with him I've worked with him so many times. I'm like, who else is out there? And we both kind of, it was almost like at the same time, we were like, what about Joel? And I believe by that point, because again, you're another one where I would never have mentioned your name because you've been so busy with Scout and all that. And I'm like, I don't think he's near as busy anymore. Let's try him out. Is that incorrect? Like, are you even busier now, or?
I'm still extremely busy, just in different ways.
Okay.
So since I have moved on from Scout, my biggest, hey, Wendy, hello. I remembered everything. So since moving on from Scout, I've been able to focus a lot more on my lettering career, which was my primary reason for moving on. Was I was getting so many inquiries and so many people wanting me to letter that I just decided it was time for me to take that next step in my career. So my options for lettering availability have opened up, but at the same time, I've got an 18-month-old running around and I'm a stay-at-home dad. So still extremely busy working around the scheduling with him and my wife's, her availability. So yes, still busy, different ways, loving every minute of it.
Right. I mean, Raven says, quick, touch yourself. Raven, I'm always touching myself. What are you doing, man? What is it like? Like, I mean, okay, so first off, you joined Scout, what, like 2-3 years ago?
I think 2. I'm horrible with dates, so I think it was 2 years.
I mean, it's not like you guys were married, so like, it's suddenly you were like, Chrissy, what's our anniversary again? Like, your ass is sleeping on the couch, motherfucker.
But yeah, that I know is in 7 days.
Oh, congratulations! How many years is it for you guys?
8.
Dude.
Yeah.
8? Yeah. Dude, 8? You're not fucking around at 8 anymore. And that, of course, that's just being married, right?
Yeah. Yep. Oh man, I used to know all these numbers, but as I said, horrible with numbers. We've actually been friends since I was in middle school. She was in high school. It was my last year of middle school, her first year of high school. That was when we met. When I transferred to the school that she went to. And then we were friends for a long time. I always make fun of myself with this story because there were a lot of signs from the very beginning that she liked me. But I was the dumbass who had no idea.
Dude, every boy is like that.
Oh, yeah. No idea. So then we ended up parting our own ways for a while, and she got a different boyfriend, and I had a different girlfriend. And for some reason, her boyfriend didn't like me. I couldn't figure out why. And since he didn't like me, her and I lost contact for the most part. But then... as her relationship was winding down, my relationship was winding down. One thing led to another, and we ended up reconnecting. We started dating in, I think it was early 2011. Then we got engaged in 2013 and married in 2014.
So pretty quick, actually.
Yeah. There was a lot of buildup considering the friendship and everything.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't hey, we're meeting and then 6 months later we're getting engaged. But
I mean, literally, that is my story with Wendy. Like,
yeah,
Wendy and I met online in March. She then came up because she was in Texas and I was in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. She came up to live with me in November of 99, and I basically asked her to marry me in December of 99.
nice.
Yeah.
See, it works.
And
It works.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own path.
yeah, exactly. So that's why, like, I wasn't trying to be a dick, but like, even
No,
what you
definitely.
did, it was fast by most people's standards. Mine is ridiculous. My parents were not happy.
Dude,
They were. I was 20. They were not happy.
Chrissy and I think I had just turned 21 when we got married. Yep. So we got married young, and everything seems like it took so long. But just going through the conversation now, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it didn't really take that long.
Right. Well, and that's the funny thing. Like, when you know that it's right,
Yeah.
then every step feels like it takes a long time. You're like, I already know that this is the right thing. Why are we waiting a year? This is stupid.
So, do I have time for one quick story? This is a funny story.
Yeah, dude. We got
So-
like an hour, man. Have fun.
Dude, nice. So, during this, I decided that I was gonna propose to her. So this is early 2013. Coincidentally, we got engaged on May 4th.
Okay.
May 4th of 2013. I didn't realize what day it was until afterwards, even though I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. And that's because I was so focused on the engagement. At the time, we lived in Michigan, but we actually got engaged here in Florida at Disney. I worked with her mom as my co-conspirator, and we were coming down to Florida for a vacation. At the time, I lived with her and her parents, and her mom was working with me on planning everything so we could have this whole romantic thing in front of the castle at Disney. So like 2 days before we're going to leave, I'm telling some friends at work that, okay, I'm going to do this, going to go down to Florida. First day of the trip, we're going to Disney. I'm going to propose. It's going to be amazing. My buddy looks at me and he's like, dude, what if she says no? It's going to be an awkward fucking trip. I'm like, you're a dick.
Right? That's hilarious.
Yeah, luckily I knew she was going to say yes, and she did. So now here we are 9 years later from then. 8 years. 8 years happily married.
That's awesome. Congratulations, man. And you guys,
Thank you.
I love seeing you guys at shows together. Like, Chrissy almost, I would say in a lot of ways, she almost kind of steps up and takes the lead sometimes at the table.
Oh yeah, she's definitely my better half. I'm good at talking to people on occasion, and I'm good at working behind a computer. When it comes to getting shit done in the most efficient way possible, she's the queen.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, even just like, because we did MegaCon together in 2019.
Yep.
And she was there for that. And walking by your table, and I don't know where you were. I think you and Travis might have been at a panel or something. But
Could
dude,
have been.
it was natural.
Travis
It was
jokes
just-
at me that I'm never at my table, so.
He's one to talk, man. Like, I remember at that show, he was not at his table an awful lot.
I mean, he's right. I'm pretty much never at my table, but I mean, I've got
Look.
Chrissy for backup.
That's what I was gonna say. When you have a Chrissy, you kind of don't have to be at your table. Like, sign a
Yep.
bunch of books beforehand, fuck off, go enjoy yourself, and as long as she's happy, bring the queen a Starbucks now and then when you come back. Make sure you bring her something back, and you should be fine.
Yeah. Honestly, that probably has part to do why I haven't returned to the con scene. I am planning on going back to conventions next year. But since having the baby, just traveling, being away, and then not having Chrissy at the table, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do it. But I mean, especially now that Dust County is back from hiatus, I'm excited to get out there and get back with the people.
Right? Now, so Paul Gomez says, last show I lived at Chuck's table, and that's true. He slipped underneath the table and hung out with me an awful lot. We had a good time because he's another guy I've edited for, and we worked on a book together. Paul has a Kickstarter coming in August. Paul, feel free to share that link in here so people can check it out. Mike Williams, I'm pretty sure you have a book too. So if you have books to show off, share them in here by all means, guys. If you guys have any questions for Joel, who is a letterer, a writer, a publisher, graphic designer former graphic designer for Scout. I mean, you've done a hell of a lot in what, 4 years?
I started writing the Dust County Chronicles back in 2018, I believe. The end of 2018 was when I started writing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I came onto the scene in 2019, assuming my dates are correct. And it's just been full speed ahead ever since. I started as a writer. That's why I'm happy that the Dust County Chronicles is continuing, because it's kind of like a coming home for me. I started with this series, and ironically, this is the series that got me started lettering. I did the thing that I tell people not to do now, which is don't letter your own books. And I did it the same reason why people usually do, is I was trying to save a bit of money. Lots of courses and education later, I did not save a lot of money.
Right.
But now my career has shifted away from writing, and then now I focus primarily on lettering with a bit of graphic design. I did a couple years working for Scout, first as a production designer, later head of design, and now it's pretty much just strictly lettering and then graphic design as projects arise. Yeah.
Now, it's funny because for those who have been watching the whole show, Joel had a little misstep. He didn't remember the full name of Wendy's book, and it's a long name. It's multiple names. But then Wendy comes on and she says, I'm so excited that DDC is back. And of course, it's DCC. So now you guys are even, because apparently you both have very little respect for one another's books. You're like, I'm a huge fan of whatever the fuck the name is.
I would say we're even, with the exception of I'm still a little bit behind because she pays me to work on the book. So I should know the book because I mean
that's true. But I think this is something that people have to remember. You can pay us, but you're not always paying us to care. You know what I mean? Like
Wendy, you pay me to care. I'm just saying that right.
That's true. That's but I mean, let's be honest here. As someone who has worked on a fuck ton of books, like both of us have done that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you want every job to be important. You want it all to matter. But sometimes there's just ones where it's like, this is just a job, man. Like, I'm sorry, but you're making it difficult. And usually it's the creators, or it's very rarely actually the book. But sometimes it's just like, man, I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm going to do the best job I can because of my reputation. But again, you're not paying me to care, just so we're both aware. Like, I'm caring for me, not for you, man. And that happens. Like, that's part of it.
Yeah, there are definitely clients like that.
Right?
like you said, it usually comes down to the client, not the property.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that just comes down to creator relationships, understanding what the different roles are and where different specialities lie. That's probably the most common thing that I see, is not many people in the industry, especially coming up in the industry. Like, naturally, once you get in the industry, you know what a letterer is. But especially new people in the indie scene, and I still do a lot of indie books. So a lot of people in the indie scene, especially when they're coming up, they're not 100% clear on what a letterer does in relation to what an artist does. And a lot of times when creators come to me, it's usually after, I can't say usually, but there are quite a few times where their artist has originally said, I'm going to do lettering. And then they find out that it wasn't what they're looking for. So, okay, now I'm going to go find a professional letterer, and this is what they provide. So really, they have me in one ear saying this is how it should be, and the artist who thinks they know how to letter in the other ear saying this is how it should be. So it's conflicting information for someone that's new in the industry. It can be a lot. It's information overload. So then it's not usually malicious. It's more so just lack of experience, which that comes in time.
Well, and so, you said it earlier. One of the first things you tell people is don't letter your own shit. Get someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which, do as I say, not as I do. I get that. I've edited one or two of my short stories. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, I don't have time for anybody else. I'll deal with this. Like, it's fine. So, yeah. But on that other end, wouldn't you say that the basics of lettering is something that pretty much anyone should know who's in comics? Like, if you're in comics and you're making comics, whether you're a writer, especially, I feel like every editor should take a lettering course. Like, I personally took lettering courses just so I could help with that. But even artists, especially artists, actually, because they have to make room for the lettering and they have to know where the positioning is going to be when they read the script and stuff. Do you think that everybody should take some courses on lettering?
I'm definitely a big fan of cross education to an extent, because part of the reason why comics ended up being a team sport was efficiency. You have different people who specialize in different things. So yes, it would be awesome if artists took lettering courses so that they could figure out placements and how much space to leave based on word count. Not a lot of artists know that. So if they did know that, it would be fantastic. Yeah. It would make my job a lot easier. But at the same time, if I take drawing lessons, I'm not going to suddenly think that I'm an artist. What happens a lot is artists will, and I say a lot, this is from a very small pool, so there are plenty of people who don't do this. But what can happen is artists will take lettering courses and then they think, oh, well, now I know how to letter, so I can work that in and undercut professional letterers and make some extra money doing it, when really that's not their specialty. Yes, they can do basic lettering, but their specialty is perspective, it's drawing anatomy, it's drawing cityscapes, all of these different things that I can't do. And there are plenty of nuances to lettering that I can do that they don't know from their first from their introductory courses. So yes, I do think that people should take introductory courses in all of the different things. Learn how to write, learn how to edit, learn how to letter, pretty much color, flat, the entire process, so that we all know what the other people on the team are doing. But taking those introductory courses does not make you a professional. It just gives you a more well-rounded understanding of what we do as a team.
Yeah. So Brian Manell asked, and you actually already answered this. He said, what drew you into the lettering side of comic making? So I guess you said why you did it, but why did you keep going? Like, why did you go to the level where you are now?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. I started to save money, and like I said, spent a lot on courses, spent a lot on fonts, but I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to draw. My mom was artistic, my grandma was artistic. I can't draw for shit. But one thing that I found while teaching myself how to letter was that there's an artistic element to it. It's the perfect harmony between art and words. So my job is to make it to where words, which have no artistic property by themselves, blend in perfectly with works of art and seem like a piece of that art without appearing like a sticker that got slapped on. So the marriage of art and the script is in itself an artistic element that I found myself drawn to, in the fact that over time I got better and better at it and people started wanting to pay me. So that helped. But then having that pull to my artistic side while still being able to work in comics and actually make a career out of it, it was pretty much just a perfect storm of everything coming together. And then there's one element of lettering that I fell in love with very quickly, and it's super selfish of me. But with every book that I letter, I'm the first person who reads that book. Because the writer reads the script first. The artist reads the script first and draws the pictures. I'm the first person in the world that gets to read it in its entirety, script and art combined. And that's just super cool to me.
That actually, I never quite thought of it like that. That's so true. You're kind of the first person to see it done, or pretty much done. Obviously, someone's going to go over and do edits and whatnot, but you're the one who gets to see that beta version. Oh, that's cool. I never thought of it like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that I realized early on. And I mean, there are exceptions where I'm relettering a book. Someone had it originally lettered, and they decided, okay, we want to step up the level a little bit, so I'll have it relettered and I'll go to a professional for it. Yes, it was previously lettered, but I'm still the first one to see it in the entirety with the pro lettering. So no matter what, I'm the first one that gets to see the final book.
You know what? That brings up, because there's lots of questions here, but that brings up a really interesting thing, and that is you were in Scout for several years and really good books. And you were saying at one point you were pretty much kind of like lettering and doing the graphic design for pretty much everything out of Scout proper for a while there.
I was doing the production work, but not the lettering.
Okay.
I did letter. I lettered several books for Scout, Redshift, Stake, obviously. Now I'm doing Vanity, and I still do quite a bit of lettering for Scout, but the majority of my work actually for the company was production and design.
Okay.
So getting books ready for print.
Okay, well, so in that, and I mean, were there any books, because there's been some amazing books that came out from Scout, were there any where you got that sneak peek and you looked at it and you went, oh shit, this thing is going to hit so hard and people don't know what's coming? Like, was there any particular books where you knew, like, they got it?
So I would love to say yes. However, my workload was so busy and I had so many books that I was pumping out. I honestly can't say a single Scout book that I read during my time that I was working for Scout, because my job was limited to the interior, the exterior, and just making sure things were ready for print.
So you weren't reading the whole books?
Correct.
Okay. That makes sense. For a second there, I thought you were like, in my time? Nah, it was shit. And I was like, whoa, Joel, you haven't been gone from there for that long. Chill out. But no, I feel you.
I mean, they do put out quite a few books, a lot of which are lettered by me. But I mean, but No, in all seriousness, I haven't read a Scout book in a very long time, mainly just that I haven't lettered, mainly just because my workload and my time restraints haven't given me the availability to.
Dude, it's so true, and it's funny because even from like an editorial point of view, people will ask me, "What books are you reading?" And I'm like, "The books I'm reading aren't on shelves, man. I'm reading
Yep.
scripts. I'm reading final pages. Like,
Yep.
I don't have a lot of time to sit down. Like, I'll have friends like Travis hit me up and he's like, "Hey, man, not to be rude," and I made a promise. I promised him for his birthday I was going to review Granite State Punk, and he properly called me out. He was like, "Hey, man, you were going to do this," and I was like, "Oh shit, snap! I completely forgot. You're dead right." And I think within like 2 or 3 days, I went, read it, reviewed it, and had only good things because I love that book. But that's it. Like I've had several people be like, "Hey, man, can you review my book?" And I'm like, "I could throw it on the stack, but I'm telling you, it's a long time. Like, don't wait, and probably don't message me about it, because if you have to ask me, have you read it? The answer's fucking no. Like, I'm telling you that right now. The answer's no, because for me, and that's the other thing too, is that when I read a book, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So reading a book is not like with anybody else where it's like I can read it in 5 or 10 minutes and then walk away. No. Sitting down and reading a book means an hour of my life is gone. Because I'm going to sit down, I'm going to read it, I'm going to pore over it, and then I'm immediately going to turn on the camera and I'm going to do a 10-minute video. Then I'm going to upload that video and I'm going to share it around, and over an hour is gone, just like that. So I'm not necessarily excited to read a book because I immediately know that amount of time is going to be gone. And people will say, "Well, then don't do the review." But I want to. Like, I want to share the thoughts. I want to share the love. And I hate the idea of quietly reading a book and then saying nothing about it.
I can't.
Or just telling the creator, like, "It was great. I loved it. Thanks."
Yeah, I can't. Whether it's a movie, a comic, or a novel, if I read something or see something, take in some sort of art, I immediately go and I talk to Chrissy about it, and she's like, "I have no fucking idea what you're talking about." and I'm like, "All right, I get it." And I
Could you read this too then?
Yeah, and she's busy, so that ain't happening. So then I just have to sit there and like, okay, who am I going to talk to? But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying there. And I even have a hard time just reading comics off the shelves, just for fun, because since I've been doing this for so long, I find I spend less time reading it and more time dissecting the lettering. So it's kind of like why they say you never look behind the curtain for a magician. You don't want to ruin the magic. Well, since I have gotten into the industry and since every day I'm looking at comics and I'm lettering comics, when I pick up a book that I want to read, I immediately, within a page or two, I'm focusing less on the story and more looking for different techniques I can incorporate and learn different things. And if I see something that's a lettering slip, it kind of ruins a book for me. Not because I'm trying to say, "Oh, I could do better" or anything like that. It's just my mind is trained to focus on these things. So if I see something, I focus on it and I can't break that. And it kind of ruins the magic a little bit. So I have to intentionally sit down and focus on a book. And I mean, there are very few books that can draw my attention like that nowadays that are not books that I'm actively working on.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Putting ourselves back into some Dust County, Michael Williams said, "Yeah, Joel, how much do those banners cost, and where do I get mine made?"
Oh man, this is my original Dust County banner from like back before Metal Ninja Studios had a logo. I honestly couldn't tell you how much I paid for it. And I got it made at Vistaprint. That I do remember.
Me too.
But,
so Vistaprint is around. Last time I got mine, which was late last year, about $115 for
Okay.
just like a regular roll up, nothing special. And
Yep, that's-
and of course, you're gonna need a graphic designer. Well, you don't need to. You can kind of put it together. Like I put my first one together myself, and it's fine. But I think if you really want to go the distance and make a nice banner, you're gonna want a graphic designer to kind of go over it and work on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a new one for when I get back into conventions next year, because I look at this and I shiver, because I made this.
I'm so much better than this.
Oh, it's real.
Oh, I
Like,
believe it.
can I tell you my least favorite part about being on Kickstarter right now? Dust County Chronicles #1. The very first book that I lettered. It's still a good book. I love the book. I love the stories. But now when I look at it, I see, oh, I can do so much better.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm really happy about is Nightfall #2 is on Kickstarter right now. Nightfall #3 is the next book on Kickstarter, and it's the final story in the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall. After that is the trade, and I'm super excited for the trade because I'm relettering the whole thing.
Dude.
Yes.
That's smart.
Yeah. So when the Dust County Chronicles comes out, it seems kind of weird because I'm down talking my own book while I'm on Kickstarter, but I actually want people to get Dust County Chronicles #1, because then if they get the trade when it comes out, they will be able to look side by side and see the growth of 5+ years of training. Yeah. And although I don't like looking at the book right now because I see how far I've come, I'm going to love looking at those two side by side and seeing how far I've come.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because Wendy was talking about, so Viscarian Tales is on right now, issue 1. She's already got the script for issue 2 done. And she was talking about going ahead and doing the script for issue 3. And I said, actually, don't. And she was like, why not? And I said, because your growth already is visible. Like I can see the growth from 1 to 2. If you then immediately go and do 3, then by the time it actually comes to having to make it, you will have grown even more. And you're just going to want to go over the whole thing again and probably rip it to shreds. So I said, honestly, I wouldn't touch it until until you see like, it's time. Like I need to start getting ready and then go into 3, because yeah, like you said, man, you grow so much, and especially like us in our first, like this is our first 5 years.
Yep.
You learn so much, you pick up so much, especially if you take it seriously. Like I've seen some people where I'm like, hey, aren't you supposed to grow? Like, shouldn't you get better? Because I'm seeing the same thing that I saw 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not naming names, but it certainly happened.
Yeah.
And I think like, if you're taking it seriously and you're recognizing your faults, and I think that's really what it comes down to, is us recognizing like, oh, I didn't know all the lettering rules, or I wasn't taking spacing seriously, or I wasn't, any of these number of things. I wasn't stopping and looking at the whole book and going, hey, will this size of font work on page 1 as well as it does on page 24? Like, am I going to have to figure something out along the way? Like,
well, I gave myself an interesting challenge that I didn't know that I was building, because one of the key things that I've learned as a letterer is one of the easiest ways to tell a professional from an amateur or someone just starting out is how well the font and the lettering style blends with the art. So one thing that you see quite frequently is just basic circle shapes and a normal like Arial type font where it's just rigid, not very comic booky. Or you'll see a very thick, bold font for a kind of very thin lined artwork, and it just doesn't blend. So with the Dust County Chronicles, I knew nothing about that. And I set up a fun challenge, not knowing it, where every single story in the original 2 books has a different art style. So when I go through, and then Nightfall has an entirely different art style.
Yeah.
So now when I go through and re-letter everything, I'm not only going to have to vary the lettering styles to match the art style, because before I just did the same thing through and through regardless.
Yeah.
So I'm not only going to have to match the artwork, but I'm going to have to pick specific elements to be through lines to go from one story to the other, whether it's a font selection or a bubble shape or a balloon shape or these different things, 1 or 2 specific elements that ties everything together. So although the lettering will look different from story to story, there will be these things that you recognize that'll be the same all the way through.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the key thing about Dust County, is the first 2 issues were all short stories that didn't really have anything to do with each other, aside from little Easter eggs here and there. And then here comes Nightfall, where everything gets brought together, everything gets tied in.
Yeah.
So
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to revisit it with the lettering and take the story elements and bring it into the lettering now that I know a lot more about it.
Yeah. So, speaking of lettering again, Mike Williams came in and he said, "What's the quickest way to becoming a letterer?" Like,
so there isn't really a quick way. That's the unfortunate part. A lot of people, and this is a very common question. So we laugh, but I don't want him to think that we're laughing at him. It's just that how common this question is. There really isn't a quick way. It's practice. Lots and lots of practice. I started by lettering my own book because it didn't matter as much if I messed up. And I was never intending to become a letterer. I was just going to letter the Dust County Chronicles, and that was it. But people started seeing what I was doing, not because I was pushing myself as a letterer, but because I was consistently doing it. I kept going, kept getting the repetitions in. For lettering, it's pages. The number of pages that you can get in, every single page counts as a rep. Get as many reps in as you can, and eventually you'll build up and you'll get there. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to immediately bench press 500 pounds. You're going to do reps and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going until eventually you hit your goals.
Yep. And don't be afraid to fuck up, man. I mean,
without a doubt.
Right? Like, and you own it and you go, cool. Well, I learned from that.
Yep.
And that can be said for any of them. What's that?
I have had plenty of mistakes in my years doing this, but every single mistake that I've had, I'm happy that it's happened because I've never made the same mistake twice.
Was there a mistake that was a little more public than you were hoping for? Like just one where you were like, oh, that's so fucking cringy. Like,
yes,
I'm seeing it right there.
Well, it was actually a production thing, and it was on one of my first production books, and I wasn't as familiar with the process as I am now, naturally, but it really humbled me because it showed me that there was a lot more that I had to learn.
Yeah.
And for this particular book, when I put, it was an anthology, and when I put certain pages in, some wires got tripped in my brain or something. I wasn't thinking correctly, and I processed these pages wrong, and it went to press. I thought everything was fine, everything was good. I find out after the fact that this one story in this anthology was entirely pixelated. All of the lettering got jacked up, all of the artwork got jacked up, the entire thing on one story, and I knew exactly what happened when I saw it, and I have never made that mistake again.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yep.
That's rough, man.
Yeah.
And again, not like it was just like, I mean, we've had that where I think I had one. You're going through and you're proofing, and one of the the main crew members' names was spelled wrong, was misspelled. And I mean, everyone was nice. They were like, well, we could have got it too. And I'm like, yes, you could have. You're right. But I am the last eyes.
Yep.
Like, I am the one that's going down with this shit because they say editor, and I don't know how to spell the fucking artist's name. Man, they're not coming after the writer.
I do want to cycle back and make one final point on that story that I made for anyone for anyone watching that wants to get into this. I went from making a mistake that bad and essentially ruining someone's story to being the head of design for Scout Comics.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's very true.
Your mistakes don't define you as long as you learn from them. And that mistake, it taught me that. I've never made a mistake like that since.
That's a great point.
I've become very, very analytical when it comes to what I do, especially when I'm doing production, because of that mistake. And that led from one mistake to another, until eventually I'm lettering full time because people like what I offer. And I was head of design for a period at a rapidly growing publisher during the time of their most rapid growth.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny. So I have so many people coming on and talking about lettering. Mike Wagner, who is a great letterer himself. Lettering is its own art form. Many indie creators tend to ignore that and just slap words on the page. Yep. Connie Yolitz, who is an amazing artist, and she's got a cover on Belial 3 that's coming this summer. What's up, girl?
Nice.
High respect for letterers. Put a lot of time into it. Calligraphy, alphabets, runes, etc. in my teens. But professional lettering efficiency and consistency still escapes me. Dude, it's
me too.
Like he said. But it is, like you said, it's stone art form.
Yep. One of my favorite quotes that I learned when I first started doing this was lettering is the invisible art.
Yes.
Because the only time you notice it is when it's really good or really bad. A letterer's job is to not be seen. So it's definitely an ego check because, of course, everyone wants to get in comics to see their name on the front cover. Letterers hardly ever get put on the front cover. So it's an ego check. But if you can accept that and get into it, it is a very rewarding career.
It's funny that you say that because I've gotten to the point, for me personally, on my books, I don't want the names on the cover. My thought is, we get credit on the inside. Let's just show off as much of that art as possible. I don't feel like, and maybe I sound like a dick, but I don't feel like any of our names are selling any books here right now. So let's keep our names on the inside and let's save as much room for the beautiful art. That's just me. But when I looked at the cover of Viscarian Tales, a thing, by the way, that I have 20 some odd years helping to develop that world, those characters, all that kind of stuff. That thing would not be there without me, just as much as it wouldn't be there without Wendy, of course. This was something that we co-created together. And then seeing all those names on the cover and going, my fucking name's not on that cover. And Wendy was like, I'm so sorry, should I put your name on there? And I was like, no. No one puts the editor's name on there. I'm fine with that. But there is like part of me that's annoyed because I'm like, I put 20 years into this motherfucker. And, like Stoney Williams, who's put fucking, like 2 months of work into this fucking project, his name's on the cover. And I love Stoney. Love him to death. But he hasn't done 20 years in Viscera. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it was just like, again, it was that ego check. And you go, I know my name, I'm the letterer, I'm the editor. My name doesn't go up there. I get that. But for that book, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
well, the good news is you could talk to the writer and let her know.
What? I did. And I told her exactly basically what I've said here is, don't put my name on the cover. It doesn't need to be there. Putting the editor's name on the cover is kind of weird. But on the other hand, there's a bit of ego in me that's going, this is bullshit. This is some bullshit.
So
Give me a co-writing credit or something so my name gets on the cover.
well, I will say to anyone who hires a professional letterer, if you want that letterer to be completely loyal to you, put their name on the cover and don't tell them about it.
Yeah, that's true, right?
One thing that surprised me when I was working with David for Stake, we were doing the production for the very first solicitation, the diamond solicitation for Stake. And he sent me everything and said, I was trying to surprise you with this, but you're the one putting it together, so I kind of can't. But here's what we're going to do. And long story short, if you look at the diamond solicitation for Stake, my name is on the front cover of the solicitation image, because every single Stake book, David has credited me on the front cover for the Scout releases. And that's a big thing. Like I am extremely loyal to David for a lot of reasons. He gives me a lot of books to letter, so that works. But no, things like that and things that show that level of appreciation for a part of the team, you know, as the editor, that doesn't usually get that level of recognition. Your letterer, your editor, they will remember that, and that kind of stuff carries on.
Yeah. Hey, Wendy, did you hear that? If you put his name on the cover, he might drop his price for the second book.
I never said prices would get dropped. I said I will remember it.
I will remember. I can try.
I'll give it to you. You tried. Can't blame the guy for trying.
Right? Ryan Manel said, I hope I never stop growing in my craft, and then just thinking my previous work to some degree as a result. You know, I think like it's not about disliking your work as much as it is going, like you said, being able to see those pages side by side.
Yep.
It's nice to be able to go, I see my growth.
Well, I tend to jump back and forth between different quotes that I like. I live my life based on words that other people have said. But there's one in particular that was, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change how you think about it. And one thing that I changed how I thought about it was looking at the mistakes of my past. Like I can make jokes about the Dust County Chronicles all day, and issue number 1, obviously the first book that I lettered, is going to be nowhere near the quality that I have now, 3, 4, however many years I've been doing this into it. But by looking back at it, yes, I can look and I can pick out, oh, I did that wrong, I did that wrong, I did that wrong, I did that wrong. But just the fact that I recognize those mistakes means that I've grown. If I look at a book that I did X number of years ago and it looks perfect, it means I've learned nothing in those years. So that is what I mean by change how you think about it. You're not looking at mistakes. Just the fact that you recognize something that you didn't see then doesn't necessarily make it a mistake. It just means a mistake at that time. It just means that since then you have expanded your knowledge.
Yeah, no, and that's a very fair statement. I like that. What was it? We had someone come in. Oh, this is neat. Mike Wagner says, my next comic will be old school hand lettering. Damn, dude.
Oh,
I love it. Dude, you tingled. Like I'm imagining goosebumps on your arm.
Yeah. It has been a dream of mine to hand letter a book, but just the level of work that goes into that, the level of consistency that you have to have, the different techniques. I am in awe at the letterers of old. I mean, a lot of them are still lettering today. I know a few of them, but just being able to letter by hand has been it's a bucket list item. Before I die, I want to letter a book by hand. So if you do it, I want to see it.
Yeah, you heard him here, Mike. When you do that, show it off. Because, I would like to see that, too. I think that's cool. Steph Wilson comes in, this bastard. He goes, a writer show. He's a letterer, too, motherfucker.
Primarily a letterer.
Yeah, we can't all just draw tits and make money, okay? So Some of us actually have to do the other work.
I gotta admit that would be nice.
I mean, yeah, yeah. But shit, I'm trying to. Oh, dude, there's been so many people talking. Holy shit. I use wooden block letter presses. That's cool.
Nice.
What else do we got going on here? Futurama's God says, if you've done something well, people will wonder if you've done anything at all. Yeah, I
Yep.
love that quote. That's
Yep.
one of my favorite quotations from that book. Chuck has to put a ghostwriter name to sell a book. Fuck you. That's great. The next book will have Gail Pino, Edgar Williams. You don't have to do that, but thank you. I appreciate the offer. Oh, Mike Williams says, "Ooh, Steak is such a good book."
Hey, wait. Go back to a Wendy's post.
Yeah, right.
Where's Rodriguez?
I know, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, dude, you put the editor in there and not the letterer? That's not
Yeah,
even like about giving respect. That's spite. That's
Yeah, yeah.
spite at that point.
Oh, I've had something happen where I was doing production on a book and 4 people worked on the book. And I was putting together the front cover and I said, okay, who do you want to have listed? And they said, okay, let's do these 3 people. Guess who the 4th one was that wasn't on the list?
I mean, I assume it's you.
The person putting everyone else's name on the front cover. Yeah, that's not the fun part about doing production. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I did it. I mean, I understand, but it's not fun.
But I mean, like, when you stop and think about it, it's like, I understand, but I also kind of don't.
I mean, honestly, I have no clue why letterers have been excluded from the front cover. I know that traditionally they haven't been, just like colorers, editors. We by no means are the only ones excluded from the front covers. And I know that the artists are the ones that sell the books and the writers are the ones that keep them. But without good editing, writers are more likely to flail about. And without good lettering, a book will fall apart. So
that's why my argument always is, why even have names on the cover? Because once you go down that road, where do you stop?
Yeah.
Like, do you stop at the artist? Do you stop at the inker? Stop at the colorist? Are we going to have the letterer, the editor? And once you do that, now how far are we going? Do you want to put the publisher on there? Like, I mean, so that's why I'm just like, just keep them all off.
Yeah, there are arguments for every point, and that's what makes it such a nuanced thing. Like, everyone wants to be on the cover. Certain people get on the cover for certain things, and then there are arguments for, well, why put anyone on the cover? It can go any way. So I think that's kind of why there's no consistency. You'll look from one book to another book, and no one knows who's going to be on that cover.
You know who I notice, whose name almost never is on covers, and actually I think that's a good thing?
Who?
Variant artists. Because fuck variant artists. And Steph Wilson is one of my favorite dude, and I use variant artists all the time. I think we have like 5 or 6 variants for Belial, but you know what? You guys get so much love. You guys are like the fucking the lead guitarist of the world, and I hate it. So just for that one moment, fuck variant artists. just for that. And I say that with all due love and respect. So when you quote me later on, and you're free to, by the way, make sure that you quote afterwards with all due love and respect. Fuck variant
Or not, that's fine too.
Yeah, whatever. This won't be the last time I've been misquoted. Trust me. Mike Wagner says only one editor has been credited on the cover from a major publisher. Is that Stan Lee? Who is that? Or is it Jim Shooter? Like who? I'm interested. One thing writers are very good at talking about writing. Well, yeah, because we like it.
Yeah.
I
can't argue that one.
Right?
Fun part about talking about writing is if you're talking about your story, you're writing while you're talking about writing.
Right. Yeah, Mike says when I started lettering, it was only hand lettering. Dude, could you age yourself more? Back in my days, the only way to do it was by hand. Like, I love you, Mike, but that definitely aged you.
I mean that's props because the old school letterers they had a lot more work than we do now. Dude. Luckily, pretty much all of them have switched over to digital, but I can't even imagine the work that they put in and the timelines that they had. Because one thing that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to hand lettering, it's not instantaneous email. If you're hand lettering something, you're waiting for a package to come in the mail, you are lettering on the originals, and then you are mailing it out while waiting for postage and all of that stuff, or the Postal Service to do their thing. And as we all know, the Postal Service is extremely reliable.
Yeah.
So just the timeline of, we talked about this earlier. Letterers, editors were constantly dealing with tight deadlines because in the grand scheme of things, if the writing gets pushed behind, it gets pushed forward. The artist doesn't make up time because the art needs to be pristine. So then if the artist is even a bit more behind, then now the letterer is dealing with a print deadline while also making up for a missed deadline from the artist and from the writer. So we have a much shorter time. So now it's not as much of a big deal because, okay, you email the files over, I do my thing on a computer, and then I email it back out. But back in the old days, you're dealing with that crunch timeline while also dealing with the Postal Service and hand lettering. Oh, I do not envy that. Like, I want to do hand lettering for my own book so I don't have to deal with any of the other timelines because, I'm not getting into that mess.
Right? No, I totally feel that. Well, and so it's funny. Before this show, before we did this, I was literally sitting down at my computer with one of my clients who had his proof, and he had to send it off to the printer today. And what had happened was I went over in the Dropbox. I went over all of it. I put all my changes, and then he messages me while I'm at work today, and he's like, "Where are your changes?" And I'm like, "They're in the Dropbox." And he's like, "Yeah, I got the email saying that there was changes, but they're not on there." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Somehow that whole file got deleted or something." So all of my changes that I put directly on the pages so he could just change them right there and then, they were all gone. So he's like, "I got to send this off. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I guess I'm getting home from work." And that's the first fucking thing we did. So I did. I put dinner on, like I started dinner, and I sat down and I'm like, "All right, page 1, panel 3, that needs to change from was to did, blah, blah, blah." And we went through every fucking thing. And while he's making changes right there on the screen, I'm reading ahead going, "Okay, yeah, that's right. This one, we have to change that." We went through that whole 36-page book. And when we finished, it was literally time for Wendy to go for her interview, and then for me to get ready for this one. So, like, my night has been fucking comics. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's what we
feel
do,
that pain.
though.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've been there.
Yep.
Yeah. And we love it. Like, it's stupid.
My favorite is when I have a returning client. I say it's my favorite because they're a returning client, so naturally it's something I'm going to make happen. And joking aside, it feels really good when I can make this happen because a returning client comes to me extremely stressed out. "Hey, I forgot that this deadline was coming up. I have all of the artwork. Here it is. Can you get it to me within the next couple of days?" Sure, let me make that happen. I get it done. Oh my God. I took this extremely stressful moment and turned it into a happy moment because you still hit your deadline. And now we have a better working relationship because I was able to show up when you needed me.
Yeah.
So although it sucks in the timeline because I'm like, ah, crap, I wasn't planning for that. It becomes this really awesome bonding thing between a creator and a client. So
it's that foxhole moment where we're both in here getting shot at together. Yeah, no, I totally feel you. Brian Manell asked a good question. I think there's a standard, but I'm interested to hear how you feel.
Sure.
Is there a general rule of thumb or threshold in your experience for how many words per dialogue balloon, per panel, per page that's about appropriate to allow for good lettering in cohesion with the art?
Yeah, you're going to want to stick with about 230 words per page. Naturally, you're going to go a bit less when it's a more dynamic art heavy page. Think a fight scene or something. And you can typically go a little bit more if it's talking heads in a room, as long as the artwork allows for it. But in general, when you're writing your scripts, you're going to want to stick to around 230.
So you feel like you should actually stick to that, like less is not necessarily more?
Well, less is more. That's just the average.
Okay.
That's essentially the max that I say. I've gotten pages with 300 words and action, and those are just a nightmare for me. But at the same time, I've gotten pages which are like 2 words and no action, but it's a dynamic scene. So in comics as a whole, this is kind of shoot myself in the foot since I'm the one that puts the words on the page. More words isn't necessarily better. It goes with the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Same thing. Instead of saying you look upset, or instead of character A saying you look upset, having character B with a scowl on their face looking pissed off will get it across the same way without me being the letterer needing to do anything.
Yeah.
And in certain cases that works. And contrary to what a lot of people would think, 2 of my favorite comics are silent issues. There's an issue from By the Horns from Scout, and there's one from Sync by Comics Tribe. And both of those series have silent issues in them, and those are among my favorite issues in comics because of the dynamics drawn in the artwork. And it's also a good experience in sound effects, because although they're not saying anything, the letterer and sometimes the artist are still doing sound effects. So it's good looking at those to see how the sound effects work with the action. But I digress. Sometimes, for the majority of the time, fewer words is better. But if you have a heavy dialogue section, try to go no more than 230 words.
And while he's talking about this, guys, we're educating you. We're teaching you about, the graphic design, the graphic side of things, the lettering side of things. But he also has this amazing book out. So please do. And today is day 1. We want the best day 1 possible. So please go check out Dust County Chronicles, Nightfall issue 2. We can put that. I'll go back up there. What's that, Wendy?
Tried to put the link in the chat, but it's not working.
Okay, well, it was Travis put it up here earlier, so I can find it real quick and get it up there. But yeah, I mean, dude, guys, go check this out. It is a great series. I read the first 2 books. I haven't read Nightfall 1 yet. I'll be honest. I would like to, and I will.
We had a whole conversation about how neither of us really read comics anymore. So
I get it. Man.
I get
You're like, have you read Belial 2? Probably not. No.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
and I'm fine with that. I totally get that. So there you go. And now let's see. Okay, yeah. We got, dude, you guys are just chatting away in here. Good for you. Well, and of course, you're on 2 other books. You're also on Viscarian Tales as the letterer. Yes. You've done a magnificent job, by the way. I'm so happy. Like, really, honestly, you were absolutely the right choice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's totally true. I'm not just saying it because you're right here in front of me.
Sure. Wendy, send me a text later and let me know what he really thinks.
Right. And that's great. And what's the other book that you're on right now?
Merc Publishing has a swimsuit edition of their properties, their IP.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about the story. I haven't seen the script yet, but I'm working on that one.
Right. Chicks dig variant artists. You're right, and that pisses me off. Karen Berger had her own line at Dark. I didn't know that. Is that the only editor to ever be on a Marvel cover? That's really interesting.
I mean, I was willing to go with you with Stan Lee because editor in chief, that kind of counts.
Yeah. What do we got? Just checking everything out, seeing what everyone's saying. Eric E. of Cakewalk Jobs, editor. Fuck you, you tit drawing motherfucker.
I don't know. He seems to like letterers, so he's fine with me.
Right? He's a lot nicer to you. Okay, Brian's got to go. Brian, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. He's always great for asking questions and whatnot.
Yeah, those are fantastic questions.
Right? Oh, there's Braden. We did share a foxhole together. And dude, Braden, if you have any books coming up soon, drop them in the chat here so we can talk about it. Steph says back Viscarian Tales, not for the editing. You know what? Fine. The money still appears in my bank account, so I don't give a shit, dude.
I heard the lettering is decent for that one, though.
I heard that too, actually. I did. Yep, there we go with that.
Boom.
I've asked so much dialogue in favor of show don't tell, totally. And actually, that was a question I was going to ask you, Joel, before we do end up heading out. Have you ever gotten a script, like a page, where you looked at the script, you looked at the page, and you were just like, that is not going to fit on there. There's no fucking way. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I
saw you put your head back, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
He's not going to tell the story, but this motherfucker has a story.
Oh yeah. So there are two different ways that story plays out. The first way is I'm just banging my head against the desk, telling the creator and the artist it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. I'm sorry, but it's a dynamic action scene, and you have 400 words. It's not going to happen without me covering the art. So then they're like, well, I'll try it anyway. So then I try it, and then they're like, yeah, that doesn't work. And then we go about our day. But that's the unfortunate scenario where I have to tell a creator that their vision isn't going to work. My favorite thing to do, although it still has me start with banging my head against the desk because I don't want to do it. One of my favorite things to do is when I get a scene like that and I make it work. Because one of the things that people don't think about when it comes to lettering, or they don't necessarily understand, is my job isn't just to put words on a page. My job is to guide the reader's eye. So anyone reading comics, they're not looking at the art. They're bouncing in between dialogue balloons and captions. And that's all that their eye is doing, bouncing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The art that they see is whatever art those balloons draw their eye to. So a bad lettering job or an inexperienced letterer can very easily drag the eye away from important details because of how they place the balloons in relation to the art. Or they could cover important details and not even realize it. But that's one of the most common problems with dialogue heavy pages is you either get big, huge balloons of text that are distracting, or you sporadically place them to just try and make it fit. So one of my favorite things is when I get I want to kill myself because there's so many words, or bang my head against the desk because there's so many words on this page. I'm not going to be able to make it happen. And then I make it happen. And I'm able to perfectly trace my way from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, looking at the art, seeing all of the details, that makes me the happiest. I love when I'm able to do that because that is a challenge, and I like overcoming challenges, so that's a fun one.
See, you're coming out with this brilliant education. This is stuff that people need to hear. And I love this. And then we got this motherfucker. Pro tip, just drag the eye back to the variant cover. Like, this is why I talk shit about you, Steph.
No, here's the thing. If we're gonna do that, all you have to do is put the variant cover on the back of the book.
Right? Where it should be. At the back.
Boom.
So that's here's a good question, actually. Mike Williams says, so how do you handle that? Like, do you go to the editor? But I mean, most of the time, aren't you more usually working with specifically for the writer? Like, you're paid for by the writer?
It depends on who you're working with. A lot of the bigger publishers, you're working more with an editorial team. Working with the editors. A lot of indie books, you're working directly with the writer. Like, for example, with the clients that we work with, we touched on this earlier. You and I work together all the time, but we never work together. So in a situation like that, the first thing that I do is I try. I at least try to make it happen. And if it's not working, because like I said, my favorite thing is when I take those difficult challenges and turn them into victories. But if it gets to the point where I can't, I have to at least be able to show the client that I tried. Because if I just look at the script and I'm like, this ain't gonna work. Now keep in mind, with my experience, I can look at it and say this ain't gonna work. But if I don't try it, I have nothing to show for it, and I just tell the client, oh, I can't do this, it's not gonna work. What do they hear? I can't do this. Okay, so I'll find someone who can. Instead, I try, I do everything that I can to make it happen. And if it doesn't happen, I take a screenshot of what I have and I show them, because then they have proof. There is evidence that I made an attempt. There is evidence that I put everything forward to make it happen, to make their vision come to life the way that they saw it. It's not going to work. Okay, now we need to go back to the drawing board. Yeah. So
that's why when going over a script, I try to make sure that shit doesn't even get to you. Like, I've seen pages where I'm just
I appreciate that.
Don't you dare send that to your letterer. He'll go mental. You're like, what? Seriously, man, don't do that. Like, that's way too much. And especially, like, so when I see like a big block of text, the first thing I'll do is scroll down to the bottom of that page and say, how many panels are on this page? Because I was looking at one. Actually, I'll do a slight call out. He's gone now, but a lot of love. Brian Manell had this kind of big block of text. It was about like 50 words in one panel. And I was like, ooh, shit. And that was panel 2. So I looked. It's a 3-panel page. I was like, okay, cool. That's different. So we can break that up. That's not so bad. But if you're talking trying to fit 50 words into one panel on like a 7 or 8 panel page, fuck off with that shit.
It happens more times than you think.
I'm sure
a little bit of inside baseball is I will actually, if I get big blocks of text like that, I'll break it up myself. As long as I understand the flow that the creator is going for when it comes to panel layouts and the pacing of the story, I'll break it up and adjust it among the panels as I need to. And very, very few times have I done that and had a creator come back. And one time in particular, when I have done that and the creator has come back and said, oh, I scripted it to go in here. All it took was a very simple message of, okay, well, this is why I did it. And they're like, oh, okay. One policy that I do as a designer and as a letterer is I don't do anything unless I have a logical reason for it. I approach art in a very logical way, and it's confusing to a lot of people. But for example, with Marauders Masquerade, if Wendy has any questions or you have any questions about any particular decision that I make and you ask me about it, I can tell you clearly and concisely why I placed a balloon in a certain spot. I can tell you why I broke broke a balloon a certain way, I can explain every single decision that I make in that book. And the main reason for it is because when I'm lettering a book, I have a checklist of things that I go through and my priorities. And if I don't have a clear view on that checklist and what I'm supposed to be doing, then I'm going to make a mistake. So instead, I keep my checklist, I run through it, and I make sure that every balloon that I place, every break that I do, every shift that I make that's off script, especially off script, I make sure that I have reasoning for it so that if a creator comes and asks me why, or if a creator wants to change something or wants to try and push back against my design decisions, that happens quite often, then I can say, I understand what you're trying to do, but this is why I did it the way that I did. And then we can start a dialogue from there instead of just pushing back and no, this is how I did it.
Yeah. Okay. So I love this. I love the support of the indie community and how we all try to like work together and take care of one another. Mike Williams comes on and says, Joel, I'd like to invite you to Comics and Pop Charts. That's his podcast for more on lettering and publishing in comics. I want to say something though. Did you just fucking snipe my guest live on my show for your show? Is that what just fucking happened? Like, did that really? And I believe you invited him before me. Are you fucking kidding right now? All due respect, absolute love, Mike. Don't worry, but I just think that's hilarious. You're like, hey, do you want to be on my show? I'm like, motherfucker's on my show. Why don't you wait for him to get offered?
All right, well, Chuck, I'm done talking to you. Yeah, hit me up, and then we can figure it out. We'll get everything scheduled. But yeah, send me a message, and we can definitely make it happen.
Well, and of course, with you know, like on my show, we tend to talk more about the technical aspects, but hopefully on Comics and Pop Charts, you can talk a little bit more about the book that you're trying to push.
Honestly, I'm just happy to be talking. Like you and I talked previously. I was like, dude, I'm gonna be so rusty. I haven't done an interview in years. So
I told you weren't at all.
I told you I'd get to hi Chuh, and then it's done. So yep.
That's true.
Yes. So definitely go check out the Dust County Chronicles because I do have a book on Kickstarter. Chuck seems to not mention it, but yes, I have a book on Kickstarter. Go check it out. It's awesome. So I think it's awesome, but I'm not biased.
No, and I have no doubt it is. So here's the thing. I brought you out here. I made you teach everybody. I did all this stuff. Here's what I'm going to do. We're not going to go to any other comments right now or questions. Joel, you've got the fucking stage. Give us the pitch, the hard sell. Why are these people idiots for not having already jumped on your book? Go.
Because Chuck told you to.
That feels like because The Rock said so. Like,
all right, so this part I will be rusty on because I definitely haven't pitched the book in a long time. But the Dust County Chronicles originally started as a horror anthology series that took tales that you know and love and throws a horror twist on it. So, for example, what if Toy Story was a slasher? What if Peter Pan required a sacrifice to enter Neverland? The unique part about these anthologies is they all took place in the same geographic location called Dust County. And that's where the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall comes into place. Because in the original series, in one of the stories, a girl just passing through ends up trapped. And she goes through certain actions. It's like a 4-page story, so I can't go into too much details without spoiling. But Dust County is not friendly to the people who get stranded inside the county. So anyway, in the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall, the missing girl's sister travels into Dust County trying to find her. And she very quickly learns that her sister is not only missing, but her sister is the most recent in a string of disappearances happening all within Dust County that are seemingly being covered up by the police. So the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall is a 3-issue miniseries. Issue number 2 is on Kickstarter right now, and it's her journey trying to uncover the mysteries of Dust County, where her sister is, while also trying to survive the monsters that call it home.
Nice job. And by the way, you've gone through all this bullshit with us not talking about your book, but Eric Mullins said, already backed your book.
Yes.
So we did get a backer. It did help.
Yes. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric.
He's a good dude. I met him. He's a fellow Canadian. I met him. I remember he was in the audience for a show that I was on when we were pushing the last Cthulhu book, Cthulhu Invades Wonderland.
Oh yeah.
And we had like an all Canadian show, and he popped in, and he and I he had a Kickstarter going on. We got to push it. So good dude. He writes a really cool, draws, does everything, letters,
Nice.
a really cool manga. So yeah, man. What do we got? There was a little bit more because we got to let you do your own thing. Oh yeah, that's right. So Wendy said, I try to keep my dialogue minimal per panel because I didn't want my letterer knocking himself out by banging his head on his desk.
Yeah, it's hard to letter if I'm unconscious, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it works for us too. Like, we want you working, so
See?
we try to keep you conscious.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Plus, concussions, they take a long time to heal, so it's just a pain.
yeah, exactly. Steph goes, well, Joel could do way better than Chuck's show. Ouch. I mean, true, but ouch. Mike says, hey, Chuck, you and Wendy can do one show at the same time. Hell yeah, bud. We would love to be on to talk. I appreciate, I don't care if I'm an afterthought. We would love to talk about the book. So yeah, man, if you want us on, we would love to do that. Yes, I love a panel show, especially when the other panelist is my lady. Joel convinced me to buy your book. That's what Terry said.
Man, no pressure.
Right?
Well, if you are a fan of there
She
you
already
go.
heard- she already. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you,
There
Terry.
you go.
That's
No
awesome.
pressure. That was
Right?
it. You're putting me on the spot. I don't like this. Don't do it. Okay, cool.
No, right? That's so great. She loves him messing with me. Dude, that's like so many people. I was putting up that thing the other day about do you have any memories? And a lot of people were like, yeah, you and Steph fucking around. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so dude, you got some people checking out the book. You're back. Like, how good
Yes.
does it feel to kind of, because you've been sort of working, I don't want to say in obscurity, but kind of in silence. Like you haven't been able to have that connection because you are so fucking busy. So how does it feel to be able to like come out, chat with the fans, be on the shows? Like, is there a certain element of fear or worry, or like where you at?
Well, I do have to give a major shout out to Travis Gibb, because being on the shows is 100% him. For those who don't know, and a lot of people don't know because this is my first show, I brought Travis on as project manager for this campaign to help me out because Dust County has been on an extremely long hiatus, about 2 years since the last Dust County book. But I've been sitting on the pages for 6 months to a year. It's been done, completely drawn. The script for the last issue is already written, but I'm so busy with my workload, with lettering other people's books. I kind of joked with Wendy about this before, but ironically, a professional letterer does not have time to letter his own book. So that's the situation that I was running into, is with everything with the baby, with my workload. I just wasn't able to take the time or make the time to build the campaign page, to promote, to reach out and connect to people, to get back into the scene. So I started talking to Travis, and I've been following from the shadows, like you said. I've pretty much just fallen into obscurity off of the scene. Still very active in the production side and making sure books get done and still making books. But from the public's perception, I just kind of disappeared. And there was a lot of nerves with getting back into it, especially being out of the game for so long. Like I was not ready. I was dreading it. I did not want to do it. At a certain point, it kind of felt just like, okay, I need to do it just to fulfill my obligation to my backers and to the fans of the book. Because I promised them a 5-issue series. I started a brand new story arc and then disappeared for 2 years. So I need to make this happen. So I talked to Travis and I said, hey, can you help me make this happen? And he agreed to come on as project manager, and he got me on this show. He reached out to you. He's reaching out to a bunch of different shows. He is doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to help share the book out. So I have to give a big shout out to Travis.
Mad love,
because it feels fantastic now that the campaign is live. We got through the rough humps. But now that the campaign is live, it feels fantastic to be out talking again. But leading up to it, it was definitely nerve-wracking.
Right. Did it help knowing that the first show was going to be one where it's like, oh, it's a bud, so that's not going to, the pressure's kind of off a little bit.
Yeah. It feels a lot less like I'm pitching the book, except when people say, hey, sell me your book. But it feels more like a conversation, and I'm always down to talk production, to talk shop, essentially.
Yeah.
So, just hanging out for a couple hours talking shop. I'm always down to do that. Oh, by the way, I have a book on Kickstarter too. I've always been the worst at promotion, like just horrible at it, because I would much rather talk shop. I would much rather talk about what I do, what you do, how the books were made. Like it's very tedious for me to mentally tedious for me to go through, make a checklist of, okay, these are all the things I need to do for promotion. It was rough for me back in the old days with the first 3 issues of Dust County. So just coming back to it and having to do that again after being away for 2 years, it was almost getting me to a point of paralysis to where I didn't want to do the campaign. And then Travis saved the Dust County campaign.
Yeah.
Hey,
no, good, man. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's from earlier. It's because Terry asked, she's like, can I get a link? Well, that's kind of the best I can do for you right now. If someone else wants to drop the link for Terry and anybody else who's interested in checking out the book, that would be amazing.
DuskCountyChronicles.com.
There you go.
That'll take you right there, and that's Dusk with a K, not Dust with a T. That's
right. Well, and you know what's funny is you talk about, you were saying like, I'd rather talk shop. I'm not great, but that first campaign you did on Kickstarter and that first run you did, you were doing live shows, like your own Facebook lives, and you actually doing a really good job. Like I remember I didn't know who the fuck you were. And Wendy was like talking huge. She's like, oh man, you got to check out this Joel guy. He's got this book, Dust County Chronicles. And I'm like, so who the fuck is this? And she's like, yeah, he's this new guy. Like, I didn't know you at all, right? This is before we ever hung out or anything. And she's like, he's got this book. It sounds so interesting. I'm super excited about it. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. Okay. And then of course, like we have these friends, but that first campaign that you ran, you did a really good job. Like you were pushing it really hard, and I felt like you did a really good job. And I know you say that it's not something that you're great at, but I think also it's also like a lot of effort, and people don't understand that. Like pushing these books, it looks effortless. We're sitting here, we're gabbing and stuff, but you got to be on your answers. You got to be, looking like you're having a good time, even when you're not, and by the way, having a great time.
You're right, Chuck. Like I'm having a fantastic time right now.
This is the best show ever. You heard
I
him here,
love
folks.
this show.
Oh, fuck you, but I love you.
Hey, you know you missed me.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, Terry, the link is there at dustcountychronicles.com. And any of you guys are interested, seriously, I read the first two books. It is really cool. I'm excited. At this point, I almost want to just be like, all right, let's get that trade. Like, I want to make that happen. It's really cool. Well, I have the option to catch up on Dust County Chronicles.
Yes, there are numerous backup or catch-up tiers, either digitally or physically, as well as different ways to get variants from the previous issues. So whether you're just starting out or you're returning, there's a little bit of something for everyone.
So I haven't looked at it yet. I will be backing. That will happen. Don't even worry about that.
I already did.
Wendy already did, but I'll back. We both.
I was going to say,
like
she did. Don't take credit for her doing it.
No, I'm gonna back too. Don't worry. We give it the double love, but I haven't looked at the Kickstarter yet. Would you say that this campaign is more about the books with less swag, or do you have a fair amount of swag and there are some fun goodies?
It's more about the books with a little bit of book-related swag.
Okay.
So far, the only piece of non-book related swag that we've released is a day one backer award for anyone that backs before 9 a.m. tomorrow. So anyone that sees this before 9 a.m. tomorrow, and this is how you can tell that I'm horrible at marketing, because we're an hour and 40 minutes into this, and I'm just now mentioning a day one backer award. So anyway, you get a sticker with the Nightfall logo featuring art, in addition to the logo, artwork by Joe Schmolke, who we have a cover by. I letter a bunch of books for him, so we got together and he did an amazing cover for this issue. So I took a bit of that artwork and turned it into a sticker, and anyone that backs at a physical level before 9 a.m. tomorrow will get that sticker for free.
Wendy, did we back physically? Yes. Getting the sticker.
See, he said we.
Yeah. Well, so the way, because I hate it when people back late in the campaign. Like, there's those friends who are like, don't worry, I'll get into the last minute. And you're like, yeah, thanks, but it would be really nice if you were a little earlier on to kind of give that push, get us over the edge.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do is, if Wendy comes on early and I feel like, oh, the book's doing fine, like it's gonna fund, and you can see that it's trending towards that, then I might hold back mine a week or two and drop it in that dead period. So then the followers that follow me on Kickstarter can come on and be like, oh, okay, yeah, this thing's still happening. Let's go check it out.
So, diverting back to the swag, I mentioned comic-related swag. One of the things that we're doing, this is the first time that we've done this for a Dust County campaign, and especially with the last one, we got crazy with all the different cover options, and we're kind of going back to basics with this one, but we're doing metal covers. So, and it's not just for this issue. We're doing a Joel's favorite cover metal collection, which is my favorite covers from all 4 books metal.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that one.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, because that's something I'd like to do too. Is metal covers are, I'm late to that one, but they are pretty fucking badass, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Luckily, I'm working with people that know a lot more about the metal cover process than I do, Travis and David. And both of them have a lot of experience working with metal covers. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so, yeah, Dust County Chronicles #1 all the way through Nightfall #2. There's one cover each that's being re-released in metal. And of those 4, you can either get them independently or you can get the collection of all 4 of them.
How much would all 4 of the metals cost?
All 4 of the metals $200 plus shipping.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's badass, dude.
Yeah.
That's really badass.
I'm really excited for that one. I've been a fan of metal covers ever since I first saw them, so now I'm excited to have my own.
Do you have a favorite metal cover that's not your own?
I think one of my favorites was a cover that John Jang did for Steak. Yeah. I can't remember the image right now, but I think that was the first metal cover I actually saw. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I want one. And now I'm going to have 4. Yes.
That's badass. Steph Wilson asks, are there sexy variants asking for lots of potential baggers?
So it's not a sexy type of book. Pretty much the whole point of the book is two women trying to find their lost family members without getting torn to shreds by a bunch of monsters. Not much room for sexy in there, but we do have a cover by Joe Schmalke, who is known for his horror stuff. And another thing, I'm not happy about this one, but we're selling the original artwork for that cover.
Oh wow! On the Kickstarter?
Yes. I say I'm not happy about it because although it would be awesome if someone bought it, I don't want anyone to buy it so I can buy it.
Yeah. No, I feel you, dude. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so we do have a couple of awesome covers. We've got one by Schmalke. We have another one by Roland Kalnins. I probably butchered his last name, but Travis sent it my way. He's doing a cover for Voodoo Nations right now as well. And he turned around this awesome cover featuring our main protagonist, or our main antagonist, I mean. And yeah, his cover, just awesome. I couldn't be happier. And then, of course, Roman Gubsky, the series artist, he's been in from the beginning, so he's got the A cover. And once again, he did not disappoint.
Nice. That's badass, dude. Braden says if Joel reads It Was Nobody, I'll back his book.
It Was Nobody. I've seen that title spreading around, actually. I have been very interested in that book just even before this. I remember the logo because the logo caught my attention, being a graphic designer, of course. So yeah, I'm definitely down to read it. Let me know how I can and where.
Send him a PDF there, Bray. And you know he doesn't read a lot, so if he reads it, that means something. Yeah, dude. Oh yeah. See, Terry collects metal, so you just started something, buddy.
Hey, Terry, you wanted me to sell you. I've got medals.
Right. There you go, buddy. That's it right there. And now I want to go back to her comment of "You convinced me."
Yep.
How much are those to print versus regular printed matte covers?
I'm working on finalizing quotes right now. I'm going back and forth between different vendors, so I can't give exact numbers, but it's a pretty hefty adjustment, which is why they cost quite a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about printing a normal, say, 24-page book, you're talking anywhere. It really depends on color and everything, but you're talking like, I mean, again, depending on, it also depends on the sheer number you're printing, right? Like
quantity is a huge thing because with printing just a normal book, you're talking anywhere from a couple hundred to quite a few thousand. Whereas if you get up in the thousands, you're talking cents to print a book. But with metals, you're almost always talking limited to 20, 50.
Yeah.
So you're printing on a much rougher and more substantial substance while printing lower qualities. So all of that adds into the price.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, and I'm sure you could probably echo this, is that with metal covers, because there's a significant amount of money that you have to put out ahead of time. Like, let's say you're getting, 25 or 20 even of each book or of each cover. You're talking 80 covers right there, like 80 books right there. And I've heard, and maybe I'm wrong, but on average, I think you're talking maybe like 20, 25 bucks for those covers, up or down. It could be anywhere
give or
around.
take,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so,
give or take.
people might look and go, well, that's a lot of money that you get to make off of that cover. And you're not wrong, but we still have to sell them.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. And it's a very limited number. It's not easy to do. And, the nice thing about making the metal covers is, it's a chance to make a little higher, a bigger piece of the pie. Like when we're selling a $5 book, we're probably making like $1.50 off of it, maybe if we're lucky. So it's nice to be able to make a book where, hey, maybe I'm actually making 50% off of this book or more. So
talk dirty to me, Chuck, like that.
Right. Right. I mean, and I mean, people need to understand, right? Like from that standpoint, it's, of course, you might be going, wow, that's a real jump in price. Yeah, okay, it could be, but that's because that's a chance for us to actually make some money rather than having to sell $55 books and just be like, oh, like, shit.
Well, it's also supply and demand. Like, people want medals. Because of that, if we're constantly churning out medals, then people won't want medals as much, which is why medals are so limited. At the same time, however much money I put up for the medals, I have to sell a certain number of them to make that money back. But I only have a certain number of them to sell to make that money back. So it's a huge balancing game. One of the biggest benefits about just a regular saddle stitch printed comic is you will have a lot more of them to sell. So you're not making as much per book, but it gives a lower barrier to entry that for anyone that wants to read the series, they don't have to drop a big amount of money just to read the Dust County Chronicles. They can get the main cover, but people that are either collectors or they really like the series or they just really like medals, it gives them something that they can invest in, and they will have a very limited collector's piece.
Yeah, very true.
It's all about providing a little bit of something to everyone.
Yeah. Steph Wilson says, if Chuck doesn't metal cover, it will be Chris Mad. Actually, I think our metal cover is going to be Chris Mad's. He's doing an actual metal homage cover, and there's a good chance
guess what?
if it comes out the way I'm expecting.
Hey, guess what? One of my metal covers is Chris Mad.
Is it really?
The Dust County Chronicles #2, the metal cover is Mad.
Oh, shit, dude. Chris, I fucking... See, now Steph's going to make fun of me, but Chris Mad is my boy. I fucking love his work. Oh, my gosh. Now I got to look at that. You're a real piece of shit, dude.
Well, I also have the original art for it, but that I'm not selling.
Oh. No. I wouldn't even have the money for that if I wanted to, but, dude, that metal cover, you're such a bastard. I might have to grab that. And look at this shit. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe this came out of your mouth, dude. What does he say? Plus, editors take a lot of that profit margin. I think you're really overestimating how much an editor makes on a book, motherfucker. We're not variant cover artists. And we actually touched the whole book, by the way. Not one page. That only gets seen on some of the books. Asshole. Steph, if my campaign reaches 5K, your cover will be done in holofoil and auctioned off for CB4K. Oh, I didn't know that. That's so cool, babe. So, I didn't know that. I really didn't. I knew she was going to do something. I know, right? I knew she was going to do something special, but I didn't know it was specifically his cover. CB4K is comic books for kids.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing that Russ Allen does, and a bunch of other people now, and they give comic books to kids in hospitals and whatnot who are sick and having a tough time, and it's actually an amazing charity. So yeah, I'm
that's
really proud
awesome.
of Wendy for doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, got to clear 5K to cover that editor fee. Fuck you again, dude. I'm free for her, man. It's my wife. She didn't have to pay a cent for me.
That's a lie. You're
Oh,
married.
that's
That ain't
true.
free.
Actually, I'm a pain in the ass. The payment was purely mental and emotional. I assure you. Terry backs your Kickstarter.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you, Terry.
Now ask where that Steph Wilson cover is. Enough out of you. Yeah. Okay. Do you two need some tissues? No, I can clean myself up later. Hey, look at this, Mike. I'd charge my wife. Well, good. I don't know what to tell you, man. I think, Wendy, if I tried to charge you, what would you do? How would you react?
I added your books. You added my books.
No, I know, but I'm saying, okay. No, you know what? I'm not even going to go there. Okay. Yes, you're correct. We do trade.
You know what?
Russell is doing a great
You
job.
should
Yeah,
just tell her you're going to charge her because I want to see what she does to you.
right? Dude, on the air, beats the shit out of me. Just beats the shit out of me. And I would see, Mike,
I
go
would pay
there.
for that. See? Yep.
Yeah, you guys would need to pay for that because you need to pay for my fucking dental work. All right. Guys, I kept him on for 2 hours. This man is in the East Coast. It's like 3 a.m. way over there. So,
We'll go with midnight. It's midnight.
okay. Well, you know what? You people, and I'm saying this, Travis especially, gets, I don't know what it is about Easterners, but any other place, especially Central, they're like, what time is it? I'm like, I'm an hour behind you, asshole. It's not that difficult. And he's like, wait, what time is it? And I'm like, it's 1 hour behind. This is not difficult. Do you find... Oh, no, go.
I was just going to say, I'm horrible with that.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I am horrible with time zones. And I mean, I've never really been off of the East Coast, so I've never really had to deal with it. It's pretty much just been my time, and then everywhere else is somewhere different.
I actually found being a freelancer, I had to learn the time zones. And so I felt like that's something that I've had to learn is I've had to learn the different time zone just so that I can kind of go, okay, wait, what time is it for you? Or even like doing the show. So I could be like, hey, by the way, it's at 10 o'clock your time. And they're like, oh, okay, great. You didn't have to do the math. You're fine.
I do like that. I gotta say I don't do that, so my clients would probably like me more if I did, but I don't do that. Right.
Hey guys, you heard it here first. If you want him to start doing his own math, you got to pay extra. That's on you people. Or put him on the cover. All right, put him on the cover. Don't tell him, and then maybe just maybe he'll start being like, by the way, it's at 3 your time.
My name. I don't want a picture of me on your cover.
That's fair. That's fair. Name. All right, dude. It's late. I know I've kept you so long, and thank you, by the way. You've been so amazing. You've been, dude, just so enlightening. I think a lot of us, even myself, have learned so much about what you do, from graphics to lettering and all that. But this really is about, you've got this amazing book coming out. Can you give us one final pitch before we say goodnight?
Yeah. First off, I want to say thanks for having me. It's been forever since we've talked. We need to start talking more since we work together so often. We should communicate, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's been a blast. I always love talking shop, and I can just talk comics for hours. So obviously we have. Anyway, so the Dust County Chronicles started as a horror anthology series that later turned into a horror adventure story following two women on their fight for survival through a monster-filled town while trying to find their lost loved ones. There's lots of monsters, lots of gore, a lot of twists and turns, and I love a plot twist and a twist ending and cliffhangers and all that stuff. All the stuff that messes with your head, I like doing, and all of that is in the Dust County Chronicles. So head over to dustcountychronicles.com and back it today. If you back it, I'm not going to forget this time, if you back it before 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, you will get a free sticker if you back for a physical pledge.
There you go. You guys heard it here first. Paul, thank you, man.
Thank you, Paul.
Gary, you're great. Guys, thank you so much. This has been an amazing show. It's so much fun. Joel, you're right. We have to do this more often. I had a really good time, man.
Yes, I did as well. It's good talking to people that aren't 18 months old.
Right. Or having to have dealt with an 18-month-old.
Yes. I can use adult words. I like it.
Yeah, good, man. I'm glad. Yeah, I know I use a lot of adult words for you just to try to ease you in, so you're welcome.
Thank you. Now I'm going to keep using them tomorrow, and my wife's going to yell at me. It's going to be fantastic, so thank you, Charlie.
It was Chuck's fucking fault. Chuck's fucking fault, not mine.
God
that
damn
guy,
it.
he needs to wash his damn fucking mouth.
All right. So I got to tell this story. I try not to be I try not to be the guy that is always talking about my kid, but this story is just too fucking funny and it fits with what we're talking about. So, in case you couldn't tell by my last name, I'm Mexican, half Mexican, working on teaching my kid Spanish with his grandmother so that he knows a bit more about his Mexican heritage. Well, she is currently working on teaching him the word uno, one. So when normal people say uno and they hold up the finger, uno, one. My son, keep in mind, I did not teach him this. Uno. And the thing is, I think that he knows what he's doing because there are certain times where he'll do something wrong. And my wife will go to scold him, or her mom will go to scold him, and no, don't do that. And he just looks at him and goes, and that's it. So my kid's a little smartass. For 18-month-old, he is definitely a little smartass. I don't know where he got it from. It could not have been me. I deny it to my grave.
Right, and having met you and having met your dad, that does not surprise me at all. At all.
Yeah.
Your dad and I got along like that, like right away. Holy shit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No, those were good days. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. I honestly, man, I really want to see this thing just blow the fuck up. I hope it does amazing. And thank you so much for coming out, dude. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. We need to do it again. We need to talk more, all that crap I already said. So yeah, it was a pleasure. It was definitely a fantastic show for my first show back.
Excellent. Guys, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. We had Joel Rodriguez this week. Next week, we've got his good buddy, David Byrne from Scout Comics, who's going to be hanging out, and he's going to be talking about his book. So, dude, it's only going to get better. We're going to keep moving on. We're going to keep having amazing guests like Joel here and all sorts of awesome people. So please keep showing up. So glad you guys came out. And remember, stay safe. Take care of yourselves. My name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Have a good one, guys.